Howdy everyone, this is Trisha and I am back with a dessert recipe. This is going to be a chocolate pound cake. I'm going to go through the list of ingredients first, and as I'm doing it I will let you know the amounts for each. First you will need unsalted butter. You will need some white sugar, some vanilla, all-purpose flour, some cocoa powder, baking powder, or baker's cocoa powder, I should say. You're going to need baking powder. You will need some salt, sour cream, some eggs, pecans, and some confectioner sugar. Also, you will need a couple of tablespoons of some milk or coffee, and I'll explain that later. Okay, let's get started on which ingredients we're going to start combining first, and I'll let you know the amounts of each. Alright, so the very first thing I did was I'm preheating my oven at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, that's 325 degrees Fahrenheit. And then I've also prepared my loaf pans where I'm going to put my pound cake in. One's a little bit bigger than the other, it's okay. I used some butter, and then I ended up using some of the cocoa powder to flour it, if you will, instead of using white flour, which you would normally flour a pan with. And the reason that I did that is because I'm making a chocolate pound cake, and when I flip them out I don't want that white crusty flour on it that I have to then kind of brush off. I want it to look pretty, so I thought some cocoa powder would be the best. So I've got those ready. Now this recipe will make 2 of the regular size loaf pans of pound cake, but I did have a little smaller one, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one, and I'm going to take that one over to my mom. We're going to start off with a cup of butter. A cup of butter is 8 ounces of butter. It's also 2 sticks of butter, and these are already been softened. I've had them out for a couple of hours or so, a little bit more, to get in room temperature and soften up. The same butter that you have left over in this little packet, you could use it to grease your pans with, but I've already done that, so I don't need them. All right, and to that I'm going to add 2.5 cups of white sugar. So let's get my first cup measured out, and I'm hoping I have enough sugar because I feel like I'm not, but I do have some artificial sweetener, so I can add that. Okay, here goes 1 cup. Let me go ahead and measure the second cup, and then I'll worry about that half cup. Yep, I think I have a bag actually in my pantry. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this started with 2 cups of sugar. And you're going to want to blend that butter and the sugar till it's real nice and creamy. Now the sugar, the granules help to break up the butter, so that's why we do this, and it'll get all nice and smooth, and I will be back. Alright, so I did have enough sugar. I added a little bit more because that second cup wasn't completely full, and I've got half a cup. So altogether that's 2.5 cups of white sugar and a cup of butter, and I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and that's looking real nice and creamy. 2 teaspoons, not tablespoons. And of course you get a few little drops in there extra, that's okay, because vanilla is always good. And to that I am going to add 5 eggs, and I've had 5 eggs at room temperature. And you want to add 1 at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack each egg, put a little napkin here for my shells. One egg at a time. Get that mixed in there good. Do another. Two. And these are large eggs. And again, at room temperature. You don't have them cold because we don't want anything to get that butter back again and being cold and solidifying. We want to make sure they're nice at room temperature. it's kind of moving a little bit faster because it's getting really creamy once I add the eggs. 4. Also doing them separately like this, one at a time, that ensures that you don't have like a one rotten egg in there and mess up, ruin the rest. So one at a time. Okay, we're gonna let that mix up a little bit more, and I'm gonna come back and do our dry ingredients. Right, here's my butter and my sugar with my vanilla extract. This is all nice and creamy. And now I'm going to do the dry ingredients. For my dry ingredients, in here I've got 2½ cups of all-purpose flour and 3/4 cups of the cocoa powder. And I've already sifted the flour. Now I'm sifting the cocoa powder in there. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of baking powder, not soda, baking powder, and a ½ teaspoon of just regular salt right in there. And I'm just going to sifting that in there. Get all of it. Let's just make sure that there's no little clumps. So that's why I've sifted it. And here we go. It's all nice and sifted. This will be ready to add to our butter and sugar mix over here. And I've also got my cup of sour cream ready because that's also going to go in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit at a time of my flour and then half of my sour cream, and then I'm going to mix all this up. So let me get this going. I'm going to lift it up so that I can pour half of that flour in there, or a third of it or so. What's that, a third? Okay. I'm gonna make a mess. Anytime you're baking, you gotta get flour everywhere. It's just part of the deal. Okay, lock it up. And there we go. It's all over the place, just like I said. Haha. Okay, no big deal. I can always pick that up. I'm gonna go very slowly this time. Now remember, add a little bit. Don't add as much as I did. I went a little overboard. Okay, let's try this again. This went everywhere. Even in my little scented candle. Delicious. Okay, so I'm gonna add also half of my sour cream into that. Okay, so then I'm going to add the rest of this flour and the rest of my sour cream into this, and then we're ready to pour it into our pans, and I'll be back. All right, the batter is all done. Here we go. You can look at it. It is beautiful. It is chocolatey. It is just beautiful. It's very satiny, very nice. Now I'm going to pour it into my 2 loaf pans that I've prepared here that I showed you before. I'm going to fill it up about 2/3 of the way up, and then another 2/3 of the other one. Like I said, they're not the same size, so I'm going to worry about filling up the bigger one first. Okay, get that in there. It's about half or so. Just move it around with my spoon, smooth it out, make sure I get it in every corner. A little bit more. This chocolate smells delicious. It's reminding me sort of like of Mexican chocolate. All I would need was some cinnamon. And now that I've thought about that, I could have added some cinnamon to my recipe, maybe a teaspoon of cinnamon into it, and I would have made a Mexican chocolate pound cake. So that's an idea for the next time. Maybe you want to try that. Let's pour this rest of this batter into this other little pan, which is not all that much smaller than the first one. Oh, some butter in the bottom didn't get mixed. Let me mix it up good. It's just a little bit. Get it all in there. there's a little bit more. And I'll just scrape and pour and move it around. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare to the other pan. I don't want the other one overflowing. I'm just going to pull out a little bit into this one. Just smoothing it out. As you can see, that's now full. And here's the other one. Now I'm going to put these in my oven, which is already nice and hot, ready at 325 degrees. And these will go into the oven for 40 to 50 minutes. I'll check on them and make sure they're done by inserting a toothpick and making sure it comes out clean. And then they will be done, and then we'll do the glaze. Sorry, a little mosquito kind of flew by here, a little fly. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a glaze, and I'm going to pour over one of them so that you can see how to do that. All right, so now we're going to do the glaze, and I need a cup of white. This is a powdered sugar, confectioner sugar. Try to do it neatly as I can, and it's not happening. Okay, a cup. There we go. A cup of confectioner's sugar. And I need 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. So let me break some of that up here. It doesn't say to sift it, so there's 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. Get that whisked together. And now it says 1 to 2 tablespoons of milk or some coffee. I'm going to use the coffee that I had from this morning. I have some left over. So I'm going to do 2 tablespoons because I feel like all this sugar is going to need it. And you're just going to mix that up. Now you could add more of, if you added 2 tablespoons of milk or the coffee, you could add more to that if you feel like it just wasn't runny or icy or glazy enough. So you could add more, and that just depends on, look at that, look how thick that is. I'm going to add some more to it. I'm going to add a tablespoon, and I'll just go along as I mix this up and see how that goes. I feel like this is going to be it. Yeah. Okay. So just whisk it or mix it up with a spoon or wooden spoon until it's all nice and blended. And you've got a nice chocolatey glaze, which is really getting there. And this you want to make it when your pound cake is done and it's already cooled off. Mine's not done yet. It's still in the oven. And of course I'm going to need to allow it to cool off before I can add any glaze. But I'm going to be doing some other cooking, so I needed to do this little video part right now and get it out of the way so I can clean all this up. And then in the end I can just pull out the cake and show you how I glaze it and the final steps. There we go. That's the glaze. So that was a cup of powdered sugar, 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and I used 3 tablespoons of coffee, or you can use milk. Now, since this is going to be sitting around and I use coffee, it's fine. I'm just going to cover it up with some plastic wrap. If you're going to have it sitting around with the milk, but you want to refrigerate that. So that's why you want to wait till your cake is done and it is cooled off before you make this glaze and before you're going to serve it, or don't even put it on the cake unless you're ready to serve it. That's what I mean. Make sure you refrigerate it. Okay, so then I'll be back and show you the finished product. All right, both cakes are now out of the oven. But the bigger one took a little longer, so I had it in the oven. It actually took me just over an hour. So instead of the 50 minutes, this one did take 50 minutes, by the way. This one was more like maybe 70 minutes, like 10 minutes past. It took 20 minutes longer, maybe because I poured way more of the batter into this one and that was a smaller one. I don't know, but just so you know, it could take you a little bit longer. It was at 325 degrees, which is what the recipe called for in my oven, and I went ahead and just went along with that. And I'm still gonna, if I do repeat this, I'm gonna keep it that way anyhow. So now I know that it's just gonna take a little longer to bake. Okay, so now I'm gonna let them cool off for 10 minutes and we'll be back. All right, I've got the large cake here is now cooled off some. I've already glazed and added some pecans to the other smaller cake, wrapped it up and sent it on its way. Now this one, because it was a little bit bigger, it took a little longer to bake, and of course it took a little longer to cool off. As a matter of fact, it's still kind of warm. I've gone ahead and with a small spatula gone over to the sides just to make sure they're released. And I'm going to turn it over. Now, I didn't think it was going to pop up that easily, but it did. Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, well, there we go. There is the finished chocolate pound cake. Let's add some glaze. This is the glaze that I made earlier, as you saw. It's real nice and chocolatey, syrupy. And I'm just going to pour it over the top part. Now, probably would have wanted it to cool off a little bit more, but for the sake of the video, I'm doing this now. And just pour the glaze over it. You could just also slice it and then pour some glaze over your, your slice that you put on a plate. You could do it that way, but it looks really pretty this way. All right, then we're gonna put some pecans on top. Now you could roast, or not roast, but toast these a little bit in a little skillet if you want. But these are really nice tasting pecans. You could use walnuts instead of pecans. Okay, so that's it. We've finished. Look how pretty that looks. Let me pick up the camera and bring it over. Look how pretty that looks. All right, I'm gonna get ready to serve it. All right, I've taken all the necessary pictures of my beautiful pound cake, and I'm going to cut a slice off the end here. Look at how pretty that is. Let me cut a second one. Probably best to use a serrated knife rather than trying to cut this with, there we go. And let's put this piece on my plate. And just because I want to make my piece special, I'm gonna add a little bit more of this glaze on top. Look at that, isn't that pretty? Add some pecans to it. And that is ready to munch on. I hope you enjoyed my recipe for chocolate pound cake, and hopefully you'll share your recipes. Please leave your links below to your channels if you have one, or just a link to a recipe that you'd like me to try. Also leave your comments below as to what you would do to change up the recipe if you did try mine. I was trying to eat this pecan. And please thumbs up on my videos, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, and enjoy.